Look, the Samphire uranium project in South Australia, just 20 kilometres south of Whyalla, is advancing very well on our behalf and on behalf of our shareholders. We've managed to do a lot of resource drilling this year. We're about to put an updated resource out there, which won't expand the resource very much, if at all. That's not the target, but it's about bringing the quality of the resource a much bigger proportion up to indicated. And the main reason for having that indicated resource is so that we can have a larger, longer production schedule for the scoping study update that we're also finalising at the current time. So that scoping study update, the updated resource, and now an exploration target range, we're all going to have out in late November to the market. Now, the importance of this is, first of all, we just haven't had time to expand the resource largely, and we wanted to make sure that we had a good, robust, updated scoping study because we want to do our field recovery trial next year, leading into then a feasibility. So a very, very active period for us on Samphire. We're going through the retention lease and field recovery trial approvals. Public submissions are in. We're engaging with the department and their key technical people to be able to get on the ground early next year with that. So good progress, a lot of work to do after that. The one that excites me a bit is not only the feasibility study, but then towards the latter part of that, we've already had multiple discussions with a few nuclear utilities, quite a few, but a few in particular are interested in doing very early offtake contracts, and that would mean that at some stage during next year, we would have offtake contracts subject to approvals and to financing. Now that's a big step for a group like ours, but it really means it takes us into that realm of a feasibility study completed, initial offtake contracts, good finance in place while we proceed through, and then we'd be halfway through mining approvals by that time as well. So yeah, a lot of work going forward, but a lot of work underway and completed. First of all, we had a fairly good cash position anyway for a small exploration company, but the key thing about this is we're about to move away from being a small exploration company into a development company. So while we had a good amount of cash, our spend rate was going to go up. We knew from our scoping study in the early part of this year that we had an economic project. So we wanted to do the field recovery trial. We wanted to do much more resource drilling this year and next year, and we wanted to initiate the feasibility. So all of that was going to be an increased spend over the next 2 years. So I did a lot of explaining to shareholders about why we needed to have these funds in. And there's good support for that, and I've been getting around post the raise to make sure that understanding is clear. It does put us in a good position over the next 2 years to get the aims and ambitions of what we want, both at Samphire and our other projects. So the feedback has been good. Certainly it's coincided with a lift up in the spot price of uranium, but more than that, the long-term contracting rate has increased dramatically. So previously 122 million pounds under long-term contract last year, now already 150 million pounds by the end of October. So the market players know that. The investment funds that came in know that, the market players. We had a lot of investment funds from within Australia, from Southeast Asia, and also 4 significant ones from the US coming to us, which was great. And also I thank our shareholders for coming on the share purchase plan, because we wanted to make sure there's an opportunity for those to come in and get set. And I think we're going to see the market continue to move and hopefully our share price continue to move. Well, the spot price drivers are all about, to some extent, the shortage of very short-term supply. As most of your listeners would know, the Russian supply of enriched uranium product, which is uranium conversion and enrichment services altogether, has been dominating the market up until 2 years ago. So they were supplying 40% of Europe's needs and 30% of the US needs. Now, since the Ukraine war, geopolitically that's become unpopular, so many people who have contracts with the Russians have gradually trying to wean themselves off. And in fact, there's a bill passed through US Congress to force US companies to wean themselves off. So that's been a prime driver. And what that's shown up is there is very much a shortage of enrichment services and conversion services around the world. And those prices have gone up, and now there's expansion plans in those areas being afoot. But it's flowing now through to uranium as well. So there was a real discipline from market providers of uranium to say, We're not going to produce until we can get very supportive contracts, and that's been said multiple times at conferences. So that discipline's there. But now there's some restart projects happening and some new uranium coming in, but most of it's all contracted. And that shortage of uranium has been exacerbated by both the trading groups and the ETFs, the funds like Sprott and Yellowcake, purchasing the spare uranium in the market. So it's a combination of all those influences: geopolitical, the lack of supply, and now the purchasing over the last 2 years by the players in the market. Now, the good thing about that is the spot price is showing the shortage that is there now. What it's doing is making sure that the nuclear utilities are really focused on the long-term contracting. So many of them are out for requests for proposals or individual conversations with potential suppliers like ourselves to look for long-term supply from 26, 27 onwards. And that's certainly where we want to see the market really ramp up, because that's going to support projects like ours. The Alligator Rivers project, which we've been working on since really 2010-11, the company when it was formed around those projects. We've got a lot of history there. 3 distinct areas in that Alligator Rivers project. The Tin Camp Creek and Beatrice projects we're working on previously are overlain by the thick sandstone. We did some fantastic work many years ago to be able to look through that, and we've got great targets. We've hit lots of smoke, as we call it. High-grade intersections, but nothing that's quite pulled together to a large resource yet. We've got about a £6.5 million resource at Caramel, that's all. But in early 2020, just as COVID hit, we had the Narberlick North project approved to the north, where the sandstone's been eroded away. It's got a big weathering profile, so we managed to get on the ground late 22, but now 23, we've had a big program there. A lot of quick, rapid drilling to get the underlying geology sorted out, and then followed up by some IP surveys. We've got a lot of historical geophysics from previous players. And now the first of the deeper RC drilling, which we just hit at the end of this season, but we'll be using all of the technical information over that Narberlick North, the southern portion of it, to really have a look at some deeper drilling next year. And in particular, we like the results that our southern neighbour, DevEx, have been having in their U40 project drilling, because that extends into our prospect and project, and we've done initial drilling in that area. We're waiting on some assays, but we've got a lot of work to do there next year. Now, and just to answer your question on the Big Lake project, we have a full survey and work clearance about to kick off with our Indigenous group up there. That's been planned for a while, and now it's about to hit the straps and get on the ground. We'll have an announcement coming out about that, and that'll lead to some drilling next year. And this is a new uranium province, potentially, with sediments overlying the Cooper Basin, the same sediments that host Beverly, 4 Mile and Honeymoon. And then our third project area is Italy, northern Italy, the nickel cobalt. Look, we've found some good intersections and samples of nickel and cobalt there, but we haven't found anything deeper that we want to follow up. But we're looking for a strategic partner to help us go forward with that, because we've got a very big footprint area that it's just too much for us to manage, and I don't want to distract the team too much on that at the moment. We have what we call ESG in practice in our company, and it's, in essence, right from day one, we've engaged with the traditional owners at Arnhem Land. We've dealt with 7 different traditional owner groups through the NLC, the Northern Air Council, and we've had more than 40 Indigenous employees through that time. In fact, we had 3 or 4 this year on our program up there. Now, the good thing with that is we've got a good reputation of the way we work, the way we rehabilitate, but also the way we assist with things on the Indigenous people there, like opening roads for them into their summer camps or wet season camps, and helping them with some of their infrastructure. So we've done that all the time and got a good reputation. We've kept that going down to Samphire. We started working with the 4 or 5 pastoralists around us to look at finishing the rehab from the previous company's drilling, which we did, and then starting to put things in place to help us improve the rangeland diversity. So in other words, when we rehabilitate drill holes and tracks and things, we try to double the bush density in that Samphire blue bush country, which really helps the future pastoralists and helps us in terms of rehabilitation, skills and knowledge, so that we can, for a larger operation in the future, we can do that. So we've done a lot of work on that, and that's gone well. We now also at Samphire are looking at some other opportunities, and one is it's a very big renewable resource area with both solar and wind. We're engaged under an NDA with a renewable company for future renewable power supply to the project. In situ recovery uranium, where you don't disturb the earth, you don't crush or grind the rock, is a low power usage, and it's very feasible to use all renewable on that with some battery backup or other backup. And then we're 20 kilometres from Whyalla. Can we use all electric vehicles? There's logistics trucks with battery slide-in, slide-out prime movers now being looked at for northern South Australia and being trialled. So we got the opportunity to see, could we really establish this project as a near greenhouse-free emission project from day one? Now, the advantage of that is in particular the European utilities are very keen on very low Scope 1 emissions, and we would be a Scope 1 supplier to a utility. So if they can get uranium, which has got virtually zero greenhouse emissions from day one, that would be a big plus. And we know that could transfer into a premium for us. So we're having a very careful look at what that could be done at the same time we do with feasibility.